Well, hello. How is everybody? Oh my goodness. When I first started watching this movie, I hated it because I didn't like the fact that the Colonel Parker character was going to narrate it. I was afraid it was going to, you know, make the movie kind of weird because I don't like narrating. But it really, really was good. I actually liked it when I finally sat down and watched it from beginning to end. There were enough scenes without the narration, so it was a good balance, you know. And I was in tears by the end because, of course, by the end they start showing Elvis. And what's really hard for me is that my family and I were in Vegas in '76, literally 1 year before he died. Yeah, and he was not good. Um, you could tell that he was drugged up. He was slurring his words. He was having trouble with words to his songs. And it was just heartbreaking, so heartbreaking. But anyway, the movie, I thought the movie was very good. It got absolutely horrible reviews from the critics, the official critics like Rotten Tomatoes and all those other. They didn't like it. I mean, so many bad reviews of it. But I enjoyed it. Now, the audience, 4.5 out of 5. Those are the audience ratings. So we loved it. The audience loved it. I thought it was well done. Austin Butler is a phenomenal actor. Phenomenal. I have to tell you, he learned Elvis's moves. He learned his songs. Excuse me. He learned his songs, and he sang all the songs of the young Elvis. When his first career started out, and then later in the film, as Elvis was getting older, they blended in Elvis's real voice with Mr. Butler's voice, Austin, and the effect was amazing. I mean, to me, I liked his portrayal of Elvis better than the gentleman who played Freddie Mercury in that movie. Um, the guy in the Freddie Mercury movie won an Oscar. To me, this is an Oscar-worthy performance for sure. I mean, the moves that he made on stage, that Elvis did, were perfection, absolute perfection. And and as I watched it, I felt like I was watching Elvis himself because he was so good at portraying him. And I did read that the family enjoyed the movie, Priscilla and Lisa Marie, and it left me speechless at the end. It's just, the way they ended it. And just waving goodbye to Lisa and Priscilla as he went on the plane. And that was kind of it. And then they put in a few excerpts from Elvis himself at the end. And I can't help but cry. I mean, it was just so touching. And then to hear his real voice was so hard. And I never realized how sick he was. We've been hearing things over the years, conspiracy theories, all kinds of things. But He had a lot of health problems, and they attributed it to his drug use. A lot of it, you know. I don't think I wrote it all down, but he had an enlarged heart. He had a bad liver. He had a bad stomach. Did I ever write it down? I might have, but it was just horrible what all was wrong with him. You know? No. I took so many notes, but I don't want to tell you the whole thing. I mean, it tells you pretty much all about Elvis, from beginning to maybe, I don't know if it went to the end of his life or not, because I really don't know. Um, the one thing that was really interesting to me, of course, I'm sure diehard fans know a lot of these details. I've been a fan, but not a fan in a sense that I really delved into his life like I do with Keith Urban. People I really, really love. But Colonel Parker really, really surprised me. I didn't know this about him. He had no identity. He wasn't in the military. So, of course, he didn't have a passport. They were talking about going overseas with Elvis in a tour. But Colonel Parker had a hissy fit about it and said no, because we need better security. Unbeknownst to everybody, he couldn't go there because he had no passport. He basically had no identity. Isn't that weird? So that was really interesting for me to find out. And I had no clue he was siphoning money for himself from Elvis's uh, millions. And apparently they did sue him a couple of years after Elvis died, and they settled in court. And he spent the rest of his life going through Vegas casinos and putting his millions of dollars into the slot machines. That's what it said at the end. Um, that was something I didn't know. So I thought that was really interesting. They showed everything from the beginning. They showed him with Priscilla. I didn't realize he was only with Priscilla for 5 years. I think they got married in what, 67 was it? Or I don't remember. I didn't write that down. But they got married. They had Lisa a year later. And then a couple of years later, Priscilla left him because of the drugs. Um, and that, and of course, she knew he had side girls. But they did have a scene in there where he comes off the stage and he kisses every woman on the lips. When they had a scene there where Priscilla was watching that and not very happy about it. I wouldn't be either. The thing is, Keith Urban used to do that when he would have fans come up on stage. He'd always kiss them on the lips. And then once he married Nicole, it was like no more kissing on the lips. Good, but I mean, back then it wasn't a big deal, but these days, I don't know. If you're a married man, you really shouldn't be kissing women on the lips, at least in front of your wife, right? For everybody to see. So it was a really, really interesting movie for me. I learned some things. And the one thing I do want to talk about were the some things in the movie were not true. Okay, so I went to an article and I looked it up, and let's see, where did I start my list here? Okay, so these are the few things that were quite not quite right in the movie. When they talked about how Elvis was going to do A Star Is Born, in the movie they made it look like he was going to do it, but in reality he was considered for it opposite Barbara Streisand, but because of the Colonel Parker haggling over the pay, they decided to drop Elvis and hire Chris Christopherson. In the movie, they make it like he was going to do it for sure. And then his 5-year contract deal with International Hotel In the movie, they showed Colonel Parker drawing up his contract on a napkin. It says here that he drew up the contract on a pink tablecloth in the hotel's coffee shop. And also, Colonel Parker told Elvis in the movie that the International Hotel would pay for the entire cost of his show and production. And that was when they signed that contract. But in reality, the hotel didn't pay anything extra for Presley. The band's earnings came to about $80,000, and Elvis had to pay that out of pocket to them with no help from the hotel. So those were the discrepancies in there. Not too many. The one that they did, I can't remember. What was that Queen movie? Shoot. When Rami, I can't remember his last name, he played Frederick, and there were so many false facts in that movie. I was I hated that movie because there was so much lies, lies and fabrications. Whereas this one, there were only a few, nothing really major, you know, and yeah. So if you're an Elvis fan, I would definitely recommend this movie. There's no reason for anybody to boycott the film unless you are so devastated over his death still. You may not want to watch it. But I thought Austin Butler was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I mean, I felt like I was in the room with Elvis. That's how good he was. The charisma came through the screen. He was so good on stage. It's like, oh my gosh, is that you enjoy him so much, and then the end comes, and it's just very, very emotional. So I highly recommend this movie. Don't listen to the critics. If you love Elvis, I would say you would love this movie. So I give it a thumbs up, 10 out of 10. That's my review. Take care, everybody. See you later. Hey, everybody. I just wanted to add a tag onto the first video that I did. I'm going to try to combine them together. In my first review, I basically just talked about the charisma that Austin Butler had as far as his performances on stage, but I really didn't talk about his acting. His acting was fantastic. He was so good at portraying Elvis and his loving and caring heart so much. Something I was not aware of. Like I said, I'm not a diehard fan where I really delved into his life. But apparently, when he was first starting, first got famous, he was jamming with a bunch of black people, African Americans. And back then, that was frowned upon. As you know, it was in the 60s and all of that segregation nonsense. And he pretty much got in trouble for that. You know, they didn't like that he was fraternizing with those kind of people, and they didn't like him doing his wiggle. And Elvis was very defiant. He was supposed to be doing a Christmas special, and he was supposed to be singing "Here Comes Santa Claus" or something. But he got on stage in a leather jacket, not the sweater that they wanted him in, and he just let it rip. He did his songs, he did his wiggles, and it was phenomenal. Now, apparently, after that concert, one of the fans were injured, and it was on TV. And they showed him watching that on TV and being so distraught over that poor girl who got injured. And then Colonel Parker comes in and he says, "Oh, that has nothing to do with us." And Elvis says, "It had everything to do with us." He knew. Elvis was a very smart, wonderful, caring person. I also didn't get into the fact that the doctor they had on duty, Dr. Nick, he was constantly pumping Elvis full of drugs to help him get the energy to do the shows, There was one scene in the movie where he actually collapsed, and Colonel Parker was just a bastard about it. He said, all I care about is that he gets on that stage tonight. Give him what he needs, Dr. Nick. He was not a good man. I mean, yeah, he helped Elvis with his career, but in the end, we find out that he used millions of Elvis's money for himself. He took a lot of money out of Elvis's millions, and of course they sued him after Elvis died, and that this was all just more into the character portrayal of what Austin did, and I thought it was so good, very touching. I cried when he cried. That's how good he was, and I felt like I was in Elvis's life with him. You know, it was really a wonderful portrayal. So I just wanted to speak a little bit more about that rather than all the glitz and glamour and all that. Sure, he was great on stage, but he also was phenomenal with his acting. So, anyways, I just wanted to add that in, and I hope everybody has a great rest of the night. And I'll see you next time. Bye.